welcome to the next summer of selling. My name is Trav White from Neighbourhood, and I'm here today with Jess and Kim from the Australian Institute of Fitness. Kim here says that he's the head of operations, used to be the head of sales, and also Jess, the general manager of marketing communications. Hello, guys.
Hello. Hey. Thanks for having us.
There you go. Thanks for coming. Very COVID, we're distanced enough, we're COVID friendly. It is January 2022, so it is a bit spiking here in Brizzy, but we've worked together for 4 years, I think it is, 4 years, and we've done a bunch of work together from, I don't know, buyer personas to sales strategy, automation, and we sort of encompass around the whole HubSpot. So I thought we'd get you guys in because probably like the poster people of sales and marketing teams and alignment that work so well together that it's not even funny. Because I guess for me, in some cases, we have a lot of people that we deal with in just sales teams or just marketing teams. And what we try and spruik a lot of the time is it's one team altogether. And what better to have you guys here? Because, I mean, you guys have probably been on HubSpot platforms for like 10 years now, haven't you?
Getting there.
Yeah.
I think just over six and a bit.
Yeah, right. Okay. Close to 10.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
A decade.
So I'll probably start with you, Kim. Are you able to tell us a little about yourself and how you got your job?
My job.
So you got
my current role.
Yes, how you got your current role.
Okay, cool. So I started at AIF many years ago, pre-HubSpot too. It was a very different time. In 2013, I was actually the state sales manager. That was the first role that I entered in the business for Queensland. Then from there, a couple of years into the journey, met Jess, who became our marketing manager in Queensland, and we worked really closely together. Fast forward a few years, I was fortunate enough to pick up a gig in the national office, so overseeing sales for all regions around the country in a national sales manager role.
That's when you were having meetings with Manly Beach in the background?
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah. So that ended up taking me down to Sydney for a little while, and had a great pad down in Manly Beach, which was beautiful. Had a really good time down there, and it was late 2019 that I made the move to come back because of the opportunity for the new role in head of operations. So the role still sees me overseeing the sales team, the marketing team, business development, but some extra responsibilities around property and campus operations as such.
Yeah, nice. And what about you, Jess?
So I've done 2 stints at AIF. My first was in about 2013, towards the end of that, for a few years, so working for Queensland. And my role really evolved because we were starting to then grow into regions. So I was part of that kind of project and really get marketing at a regional level in Queensland. And then ended up leaving after a few years, and I worked at Air New Zealand for a while, which was a cool gig, particularly working on a rebrand and marketing. And then when I came back, there was a maternity leave cover, and I was able to jump in, and I always left on good terms. So came back, and then
I think we started working when you got back from Air New Zealand. I think it was.
We did. I think it was like the first week back or so.
Because I stole your profile picture on LinkedIn, and it was you in front of the Air New Zealand logo. I do remember that now. That makes sense.
Yeah, Air New Zealand.
Yeah.
Represent, great airline. But able to come back, and then it was just kind of straight into, we had a rebrand, new website, and then that's what I've been working on. Just growing. And then, global pandemic, communications,
Yeah. Well, AIF's kind of like the number one, it is the number one sort of, I guess, fitness training RTO, I guess, in Australia, New Zealand. Just Australia from what I know. Yeah.
Australia.
Soon.
Getting there.
Soon. So I guess we work with a variety of different RTOs, and you guys have got your systems and processes so down to a T. It's like, I think for everybody watching here today, try and extract so much out of these guys because they've just got everything dialed. And I'm sure it's not as dialed as you want it to be, but I mean, outside looking in, it's definitely, it's quite amazing to see what you guys have picked up and run with. But just maybe to get stuck into a little bit of background, Jess, maybe we'll start with you now. It's just a little bit of background, I guess, on where you started your career and how, we spoke really sort of briefly around Air New Zealand or AIF, Air New Zealand and back, but how did it all sort of start? And tell us about the journey of how you sort of got to being the general manager of marketing communications for the biggest RTO, the biggest fitness RTO in Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I'm going to quote that, put that in a little video.
Yes. Here's my own introduction.
Yeah.
So through school, obviously my side hustle job was check out Chick at Crazy Clark's.
Nice. The blue shirt.
Blue shirt,
Yep.
yes. And that kept me quite busy, and I was always good at moving things on the register. So give me a competition and I was always committed to winning. But then my first kind of gig was actually working for where my dad worked, and he was actually a general manager of marketing, and he was going through a lot of receptionists at the time. And the CEO was over for a barbecue, and they were just talking, and he was making fun of my dad, going, "Oh well, you know, you can't keep them, like you're the issue." And then the guy's like, "Oh well, why doesn't Jess come in and we'll solve the issue, and she can do the assistant and help you out for a while?" And it was supposed to be temporary, and I think they were just setting me up because they wanted me and dad to have a tiff. And anyway, it worked. I was there for like 5 years. And we were there. And actually the way I got to looking for my AIF gig was when my dad were looking for a job for him. And then this job
is in Brisbane?
This is in Brisbane, yeah. And I was actually stepping into his role, and he was kind of wanting something different. And after 5 years, I looked at it and I was like, "Dad, I'm applying for this role." And I ended up leaving the business before he kind of left. And and
nice.
It was just, I always had a fitness blog. Embarrassing to look at now that I'm a personal trainer and qualified, and you know.
Is it still on Google? Can we search for it?
It's still on Google. Despite my best efforts. Jessie B PT.
Jessie B PT.
Yeah.
It rhymes. It's good. It's catchy.
It's catchy. Marketing, great. That kind of got me to AIF, and then just something that I was passionate about, because previously it was scales and weighing equipment. And, you know, it's not the most catchy, B2B. Yeah. Not really glitzy and glamorous like fitness. So, then I've been there.
And then sort of like for your day-to-day now, like can you tell us a little bit about your team and kind of like just a rough sort of day-to-day of kind of like what it might look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. My day today is never the same. It's always quite dynamic, as you see in a marketing role. Yeah. I have got a team, there's 4 of us, that is an AIF team, but then we also work with quite a few agencies. So when we're looking at our team, it's actually quite big, because we also have Web Profits Digital Agency, Neighborhood, hello, of our projects. We also then have a PR agency, so Future Comms. So in my day-to-day, I'm probably speaking to 10 to 12 stakeholders in my team that I'm overseeing the direction of projects or strategy that we're working towards. Yeah. Always at the start of the morning, it's always checking in on the stats. We like our statistics and dashboards. So that's probably something that's always the same. And then it's just working at different campaigns or communications that are going out. Yeah. Because I look after the marketing side of things that you'd traditionally see, as well as everything brand, PR, communications, including social media side as
website,
well. Website,
special
everything,
projects.
Everything. Yeah.
Special side projects.
Yeah,
definitely. And what about you, Kim? I'm keen to hear the story, I guess, on where it all started back in the day and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so interestingly enough, my first job after I decided it was a good idea to drop out of uni was actually with the AIF. This was back in 2007, 2008, and it was a different business at that time. It ran as a franchise operation. So I was working for the Queensland.
That was about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I was working
14.
Yep.
Yeah, 14 years ago. Yeah, sorry, I did my math there.
So how I got into it, my older brother actually was a part of the company for 6+ years at the time. He was in the training and academic team, and a course coach and lecturer, etc. But encouraged me to get into it, and never done sales before. Didn't know my ass from my elbow at that point. I was just young, ambitious, and wanted to give it a crack. And I kind of knew going into it that it was a fairly highly turned over role. So I took that as a challenge, and really cut my teeth at the AIF in the early days. So I was really...
Was that old school, like Wolf of Wall Street kind of selling back in the day?
Yeah, a little bit. It was
on the phones a lot.
A very different time. You look at back then, the percentage of phone inquiries that we got versus web. It's completely flipped nowadays. So it was a hell of a lot on the phone, hundreds of dials a day, mainly on the phone, very little email and very little digital.
Never put the phone down, just push the button and then pick it back up again.
Yeah, it reminds me of Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah, that's right.
Finding all the ways to make extra time. But that was a really good entry, I think, into sales, because, you had to work bloody hard to hit the numbers and hit the budgets. And I was really fortunate at that time to be surrounded with some really good mentors, both within the business and other people that are a part of the fitness industry as well. So they really helped me, for those first few years. And I ended up leaving after a couple of years and made my way into health club land, which again was fairly new. I'd only been sort of working closer to PT studios and boutique fitness at the time. So jumping into large, big box health clubs was a new challenge. But again,
got to learn to run a business now and
that's it.
all these new challenges.
Yeah, and I sort of came in a sales manager role, which again was a big challenge at the time because I was still very, very young and very green, but certainly up for the challenge. And from there, worked my way through to multi-site, management, operations management, and then ultimately became the group sales and marketing manager for a small chain of clubs throughout southeast Queensland. So yeah, I spent a bit of time, it was about 5 years or so in health club land, and I was getting that itch to do something new or take on a new challenge. And actually, I might backtrack a couple of years.
Yeah.
So I was about 3 or 4 years into the health club management role, and I kind of hit the ceiling of where I was at within that particular company and in the role, and I was getting that itch to find something new. And interestingly, a role came up at AIF in Queensland, and this was the new business or the new ownership of AIF with our now current national CEO, Steve Pettit, was overseeing Queensland at the time. And I went for the role. It was in about 2011 and made it to the top 2, but I was unsuccessful.
What role was that one?
State sales manager role. So the same role that I ended up entering. Yeah. And that was a great experience. I got absolutely grilled in the interview process. It was, it was an experience. I was really put through my paces, had to write, strategies in 20, 30 minutes, for regional expansion, and had to deliver sales training kind of on the fly. And I think I did pretty well, but wasn't good enough at that point. I was still very, very young at this point. So
thanks, Cam.
Thanks, mate. It was going to be a big step up. But fast forward a couple of years, the same role became available, and my partner at the time saw it pop up and sent me a message. I jumped onto it, got onto Steve again, and thankfully he remembered me from a couple of years earlier. And I'd worked on myself and my leadership in sales particularly, and matured a lot, I think, in those couple of years. So the timing was right, and I got the gig, and the rest is history.
Fast forward a little bit of the state sales, and mind you, that Queensland was its own unit, New South Wales was its own unit, and so the states were their own, and you were looking after Queensland.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
So at that time we operated like a group of franchises. So each state, might have multiple campuses, but they each had their own regional head offices, a regional CEO, a head of sales, head of training, and then other, business support functions based locally as well, finance and admin, etc. And that was very much the old business model. Yeah.
And were you there then, Jess, when that was that? And then, so how did that work from a marketing level? Were you just providing support across the board?
Yeah, so I was in charge of Queensland.
Yeah.
Obviously, would have like a national directive.
Yeah.
And they would do like the big creative pieces and things like that. But then we would be at a local level trying to figure out, all right, placements, how am I going to advertise us at a local level? But Kim touched on that before. It was really like I really came in at that incoming, like in that shift between calls and obviously webbies. To call them, and that was definitely on the rise. And we're the first state to actually turn off our radio and TV advertising in favour of putting that spend more allocation weight into digital.
I remember the day you did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the day you did that.
We'd been having some meetings and ran up and I'm like, you know what, let's do it, because the wave we're finding with television and radio was like that 3-month lag, and I'm like, let's just do it. Like, we've got nothing to lose.
I bet you they tried to convince you otherwise. Like, no, this is the worst idea.
Yeah, that was a lot of conversations.
They're upstairs.
Look, who's there now?
So if we fast forward a little bit now, Kim, you were looking after the state, and now how did that progress through your tenure?
Yeah, so got some good runs on the board, in my state role, which was, again, a really big challenge, steep learning curve for me, and I really had to work hard and grow a lot in those few years. From there, I was fortunate enough, I worked on a few projects with the national office, the old head of operations at the time, Sean, had a really good relationship with him, and was able to get a few spots on project teams and help out with national initiatives. Yeah, not long after that, I got an opportunity to be seconded to national office to take on the national sales manager role, as well as covering off Queensland for a period of time. So I did that for quite some time and then moved into the national sales role full-time. And that's what ended up taking me down to Sydney for a couple of years. An opportunity came up there. The team was in a bit of a transition down there with some key people leaving the business, and wanted a bit of a change, bit of a sea change, and never been to Sydney before, or never lived in Sydney before, I should say. And
Heard the traffic's really good.
Yeah, totally.
Especially going from Manly to the city.
or Manly up to Parramatta. It was a ferry, which was lovely, and 2 trains, I think, and about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. Definitely a different pace there in Sydney, but that's why I loved being able to go back to Manly Beach. It's just such a great spot.
It's a completely different city.
Yeah. I wouldn't call that, Sydney. It's very much its own kind of community, its own vibe.
I call it the Balimba of like Sydney.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's sort of annoying to get to, but once you get there, it's actually quite nice.
It's chilled. It's mellow.
Yeah.
So continuing on from there, and during that time, as we've alluded to, business was going through a massive shift where we really identified that our business model at the time, being the 5 regions or franchises, licensees, I should say, it was just untenable. Our cost and overhead, our lack of efficiency, our speed or lack thereof was absolutely a challenge, because we had 5 disparate businesses trying to sing off the same hymn sheet and follow the same strategy. We had different regional executives, different regional boards, a lot of different pushing and pulling from different sides, and it made it really difficult for us to get any traction and for us to move quickly. At the time, our new incoming national CEO, Steve Pettit, who I'd worked with and just worked with in Queensland for many years, took on the gig, and really his first big project was trying to make some sense of the business model, and really undergo a big restructuring process. And at the time,
to create the war room.
Yeah.
The war room.
That's it. And we called it Project Link, at the time. And it's not rocket science, when you're looking at centralizing, core business functions to reduce costs and increase efficiency. We had 5 different finance functions, 5 different payments teams, 5 different admin and support teams, all with a slightly different variation or way of doing things, and everyone had their special way, and it was right because that's how they've always done it. And it was really difficult to really enact any change, and to get any traction and speed with those initiatives. Fast forward, what really kicked it off is that one of our major shareholders at the time, Russ, who I know you've had a bit to do with recently, really made the decision to buy out some of the other original investors, the original shareholders, and founding directors of the business, who are all getting on through to retirement age and have been pioneers of the industry for multiple decades. And Russ really saw an opportunity for us to bring the group together to consolidate the business and really strengthen the AIF brand in the way that we do things. So. What
a job. Just 5 to 1.
Yeah.
Is it still going, or is it complete?
It is complete. Russ is the majority shareholder. We do have some minority shareholders, I believe, still. But he is the key, and he's our chairman of our national board as well.
Nice.
And now we only have the one national board of directors, who a lot of our original founders and some of those shareholders still sit on the board today. As well. They're absolute industry legends, and have been instrumental in shaping not just AIF, but the broader fitness and wellness industries in not just Australia, but globally as well. So we're really fortunate to have some of those guys still on board and steering the ship.
And then how was it for you, the transition? Because were you Queensland State?
Yes,
and then
Queensland State.
And then sort of now you're having to adopt
a
national sort of, just keep going? Like, is it?
It was definitely different, but I left the business before HubSpot.
Yep.
I came back with HubSpot.
Yep.
Game changer.
Yeah.
Like reporting.
What were you guys on beforehand?
Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. Spreadsheets.
It was paper. It was like literally a 30-day folder.
We have our student management systems, which had a CRM kind of built into it, but it was meant for vocational education reporting and compliance and those kind of things. So it wasn't a sales and marketing system. It just had some modules that allowed us to track lead data and sales, etc. But outside of that, it was spreadsheets, lots and lots of spreadsheets. We're pretty good with spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Thank God we don't need to.
You're pretty good with
use those
workflows as
anymore.
well.
Yeah,
Pretty good with workflows.
Thank you. Game changers. And believe it or not, our sales reps were using paper books. They'd get a new book every month, very similar to the health club model at the time.
Yeah.
Like they record all their activities and contacts, etc., and then that gets put through to the spreadsheets and through to the SMS as well. So we've come a long way since then with HubSpot.
I'd then review all that data, and that was me then being like, okay, this is the amount of calls, this is webbies, okay, this is what we're looking like. And that would be like my first job in the morning. So I'd spend, 45 minutes just going through all these paper books and adding up all the data.
Wow.
Now it's like done in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
HubSpot, hello.
Done in real time. You just look at the dashboard. It's good to go.
It's great.
Yeah. And then did you change much of what you did? I guess obviously having HubSpot there and being able to sort of run the system through that. I guess fast forward when you were just looking after Queensland and now you're sort of looking after sort of different regions. Did that change the strategy on how you would market a little bit, or is every region a little bit different and some like, PT a little bit more or some like massage? Or how does that work?
Previously would kind of be handed a campaign overview and then you'd be like, all right, I need to deploy this in the region. So it was, but now at a national level, it's more, I am creating that campaign from scratch.
Yeah.
And then but also now our team also dispersed that across the regions.
Yep.
So it's just more ownership and it's one way. Which is amazing. That's one of our words, one way. So everything we're doing, I'm like, if I'm doing it here, can I do it at another level?
Yeah.
And streamline it where possible.
Yeah.
Campaigns definitely we're looking at, open day is coming up. That's always a big one for us.
Huge.
Like at universities and really trying to get that hype. And we know at different regions, there might be some limitations on COVID restrictions, but also knowing, all right, well, how can we make that work for that region? Some obviously operating out of other facilities and just trying to come up with different ways so they can all be successful. So they all have their own little twist, but trying to streamline where we can. I
will step into why you guys are both here. We are big advocates of sales and marketing teams working together. Too often we see a marketing team, and this is how it always works. It's like stereotypical. The marketing team works their ass off to go ahead and give leads to sales. Sales try and work those leads, convert some. Marketing say that sales can't close the leads because we give them perfectly good leads and the sales team isn't any good. So they need to improve the quality. That's a cop out. And then the sales team goes, well, if we got good leads from marketing, then we would close more. 80% of the businesses that we work with are within that sort of framework. Kim, you sort of said you hired Jess, so you guys had an instant sort of a good sort of relationship from day one. Some people aren't gifted with being able to sort of have that sort of relationship, especially with the culture that AIF does have. Can you talk to me about the importance of sales and marketing and how you guys as a whole run the sales and marketing team without using that dorky word? I know it's dorky, but it's all right. We use it too. It's all right.
It was the call matrix. That was our first project for marketing alignment. And that was, trying to fine tune.
For those playing at home, marketing is sales and marketing. There you go.
There you go.
I'm pretty sure everyone would have got that.
If I reflect back even pre-HubSpot, we certainly had, I guess, the intention to really align sales and marketing. The two teams were grouped together, at the time under the same leadership. So I was reporting, to the same person that the marketing manager was reporting to, which was good. So we really worked together, but we lacked a lot of the data and insight and that kind of feedback loop to really understand, are the leads good, are the leads bad, are sales doing what they need to be doing. So we always aim to have really consistent messaging, between our marketing, through the sales process, through the enrollment, and
they pick up the phone.
They pick up the phone. And that was probably the extent of it at the time because that's really all that we could do. Bring on HubSpot in late 2016, and that was an absolute game changer because for the first time we had this live, real-time data that used to take us hours or days to be able to, put together and then figure out what's going on. And it really opened up a new door for us to actually measure and quantify and prove or disprove some of these anecdotal bits of feedback that we might be getting from sales or from marketing. You know,
The lead wasn't any good. Yes,
Yeah.
it was.
We had,
Yes, it was.
you know,
It was very good.
yeah, so we had complete visibility, you know, for the first time, and that just really opened up Pandora's box, I suppose, in terms of all the fun that we've had with reporting and dashboards and analytics and automation, you know, which have really seen us grow exponentially in more recent years. So, again, the intention was always there, and then bring along HubSpot. That was actually a joint project between sales and marketing at the time. So I was involved in that project, looking at the CRM side of things for sales, and the then marketing manager, the national marketing manager, was really looking for a marketing automation tool. So we both had our own kind of interests, and were pulling and pushing, and we looked at a range of different systems. And I was actually pushing for another platform that I won't mention. And marketing manager was really pushing for HubSpot.
What was the platform?
Salesforce.
Salesforce, yeah.
Yep, as well, which I still think is a great platform. But at the time, the marketing product really stood out to us. And this was the early days when HubSpot really didn't have that great of a CRM. It was pretty new. They had the freemium.
Very 80s looking too.
Very basic,
Very 80s,
yeah. And it just had the freemium version, I think maybe one tier of paid Sales Pro. So it was in its infancy, and the decision for us to take on HubSpot was then really driven by the marketing automation. And so I pushed back and was like, nope, I think we need a better solution for sales. You know, this isn't kind of where we need it to be. But I ended up just doing a free trial or a demo, and I spent a month in the system building stuff, looking at its capabilities, you know, building our sales process in there. And then by the end of that month, I was like, actually, this is everything that we need, you know. And in hindsight, it was the best decision that we made, because for us to go from paper-based spreadsheet systems to take a massive leap to a really sophisticated, complex system, that would have been problematic. I think we really would have struggled to adopt it and to really realize the value and benefit of such a system, because we were really at the start line. We kind of weren't there with our digital maturity.
That's our favorite clients, the Excel spreadsheet people, because you import the data. That's all you have to do, and they're like, "Wow!"
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh my god, yeah."
Yeah,
So, yeah.
And I remember that actually. I did all the imports of the data myself from our student management system, from other exports that we had, and I was responsible for doing all the uploads of a couple of years worth of leads and customers and everything into HubSpot. So I really got in at the ground level and learnt the system, and really made it my mission to become an expert in understanding HubSpot, which was a really cool journey. Their training and HubSpot Academy, and our good mate Kyle.
Yeah.
Kyle
Jepson.
Kyle Jepson, yeah. Shout out to Kyle.
He's reporting live from his lounge room now. Have you got him on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I do.
Get all the updates.
So his content was super helpful. And it was really through that we found this concept of sales and marketing, or smarketing, as they call it, which I guess wasn't foreign to us, because we already had that intention and
You're already kind of
alignment,
doing it
but
a little bit, yeah.
They kind of packaged it up and really gave us practical ideas and strategies to strengthen the alignment between sales and marketing, such as the development of buyer personas, such as lead scoring, and being able to then differentiate between leads, marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads, etc.
I would say, I reckon a really good session that we did with you guys was lead definition.
Yeah.
It was like, what is a lead? And that was like a someone that calls in from a radio campaign. And then what I think what was an MQL was a course guide. And it was like very clear, like this is exactly what defines it. And here sales, here marketing, everybody is aware, crystal clear about exactly what. So if we want 150 SQLs this month, this is exactly what it means. And there's no disparity. There's nothing around like, oh, well, I thought it was when someone came in. That was like really good. I kind of felt at it when we got out of that meeting too. It was like, cool, we're getting like, we're firming up a little bit. We're tightening it up a little bit.
Prior to that, we were just taking a very simplistic view to the pipeline: lead, opportunity, customer. That was it. And we weren't fully utilizing, all of the different life cycle stages.
I think Jess was most excited about the lead and MQL. She was definitive, because I think we were still trying to work out as well, like what that was anyway. And we were like, oh, well, sometimes we get people coming in that, we might do a radio ad back in the day, or we might, a referral might come in. Okay, let's park that for a lead. But we do marketing. Oh, well, that's definitely an MQL. And it was like, okay. And I kind of felt like the dust settled a little bit, and it was like, okay, Cool. That makes sense now. Yeah.
And it really links back to the conversation you're having at that point into that audience. And then also how they're coming in, because generally, with the lead, you can get them more leads. They're going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
So it was also helped us tell that story. Okay, I'm going to need X amount in 3 months' time, which means really I need to start working on these leads now, because I know they're going to take me 3 months to get to an MQL level. And then I'm going to have that visibility through all the dashboards to see, okay, this is where I need it to come from and the sources.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you want to go there yet, but
no.
the sources.
So do you guys often like weekly, daily? What's your catch up sort of cadence like?
Yeah, so we've got a standing weekly meeting, one-on-one between Jess and I, but then we're also a part of a weekly business performance meeting with all of our general managers and our GM of sales as well. And our CEO joins that catch up as well.
These days, there's normally a project or something we're working on, so we speak daily.
Yeah, do you guys use Slack as well?
Google Chat.
Google Chat, yeah.
We did do Slack.
We did
For a
use Slack
while.
for a while.
I think we tried Slack with you for a bit.
But once we moved the whole business over to G Suite, we just thought,
might as well make sense, yeah. So I guess having sort of a united team, that's great for leaders. Is that filtering down through the teams, obviously Angela and the rest of the team and also, or are you sort of the heads of that and sort of talk at the heads and then bring the strategy down? Is that how that kind of works, or is there any sort of get-togethers or anything like that with both the teams or anything like that?
I feel like we're missing Shane. So Shane is our GM of sales. So Shane and I round up quite frequently together. And
I haven't met Shane, so not yet.
We have the opportunity. We'll then have weekly catch-ups as well, and just to really see, okay, what's potentially a flag, or what are our cheers and challenges, and that then is the opportunity to kind of deep dive into things. And often out of our roundups as a group with Kim, Shane and myself, when we're doing like our planning, OKRs, often on the back of that we'll have projects that come out of that activity, and then that's when we'll bring on our little marketing team, which generally has Angela, so she is our marketing coordinator and operations, and we'll generally have some of the career team leaders also attend that with Shane and myself, just to give that on the ground experience. And then that's generally the team of 5 of us that kind of nut out then recently our personas, or will really bring a strategy or a concept and project to life. And it's good then because we've also got people at all different levels of the business. We've all been there for a fairly decent stint, but that just allows us to be in touch with our consumers, our audience.
So we've got the obviously the teams that you work there on the on the sales side. I know Kim used to sort of run that part. Now that's sort of the ops guy. How does the sales side work in regards to now we've centralized, created the war room? Kim came to me with, he goes, this is a little while ago. He came to me and sort of said, we're centralizing the business. And he goes, I've got this vision of having this war room and having all of and I want to know whether this actually happened, have all the screens around with all the metrics of all the different states, and we go in and have this big, really, did that end up happening?
It did.
Yeah. But COVID happened.
Hey?
But COVID happened?
Then COVID happened. But we did, the war room, the boiler room as well. We love that, just the energy and the noise. I don't know. I think it's a bit much for Jess's team sometimes when they step into the room. But
have we got bells? We've got bells.
Yeah,
of course you do.
We've got music, cranking throughout. Get the guys standing up and moving around and just creating that energy. Motion creates emotion. We had certain rules and our team code. For if people weren't feeling up to it or they're feeling a bit under the weather, just how we would quarantine that. It's a very topical word.
Nice. I like that.
And really just make sure that the energy in the room was high. And we had all the dashboards and big TV,
awesome.
And we'd play videos and games and lots of different things that we would do just to create that fun culture within the group. So we did get there. COVID put a bit of a dent in that, but we've really been able to move that into a virtual world with the use of Google Chat. In the way that our guys are reporting on every sale that's being made, our live dashboards, video meetings that they're having twice a day with the team, daily stand-ups, etc. So we've been able to keep a bit of that vibe and connection even in this remote environment, but we're very much looking forward
Itching to come back.
to getting the guys back in the room. And
And so how does that sort of sit as a team, a number, and how does that work in a sales team now? So how many people in there, and how is that structured and managed now?
we've got 12 sales reps. We do have 6 outbound business development reps, but they're based locally. They're on the road doing a lot of outbound contact with partners and lead generation and some lower level sales deals that they work on. So they're a part of the team, but they're kind of regionally based. Within the centralized sales team, we've got a dozen reps at the moment, 2 sales managers, and then a GM of sales as well. So 6 reps reporting to each manager. But there is a lot of crossover. The managers work across all reps, assisting where they can with coaching and training. We kind of share the load a little bit with running team meetings, but they manage and coach them really in a one-on-one on a weekly basis as well. So that that's the basic structure within the team. And to go back a ways, we had, it was like 25 to 30 reps that we had at one time.
I remember when you had 26, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, back in the older structure, and that just really talks to the lack of efficiency. The teams were doing well in their own right, and some teams performed extremely well, but it just wasn't efficient, and you get some regions who are overperforming on leads but didn't have enough reps, and then you're under-servicing on those leads, and other regions they were a little bit under, and then the reps didn't have enough to do and weren't really productive. So by centralizing that and combining pooling all of our leads across the country and distributing them to the same people or the same teams, it's really improved our efficiency.
Was that tough? Was that it sounds really tough.
It is,
because you have to keep the lights on and restructure.
Yeah, exactly. So
was there a switch that you turned on, or did you progressive stage?
It was progressive, but interestingly, COVID was a bit of an enabler, or an accelerator, if you will. So you might remember we started this project in around mid to late 2019.
2019 it was, yeah.
I wrote a business case and a strategy for how we were going to do it, what it would look like, how the teams would be structured, what the headcount would be, what the sort of time and motion analysis of each rep, et cetera, to really bring it to life. And it kind of got a little bit of resistance, initially, internally, but our CEO...
It's a lot of disruption.
Yeah,
it's a lot of disruption.
And we knew that going into it, that how we play this, in a staged or phased approach was going to be key. So at the beginning, we'd written this, we'd had the plans, we'd had everything ready to go. We were just waiting for the right time. So we sat there for a couple of months and, sort of strategized on how we'd do this. And then it happened fairly organically. We had one of our sales leaders in one of our smaller regions in South Australia moved on to another opportunity. He'd been with the business for a really long time, and for good reasons and on good terms, he moved on to something else. That presented the first opportunity, so we just grabbed it and ran for it. And
nice.
we met with the head of the SA business, Brett, who's still with us today. But we had a good chat with Brett and said, look, we've got a fork in the road. Either we're recruiting in SA, rebuilding the team as it was, or this is an opportunity to jump in, be the first region to really get behind this centralization strategy. And he was fully on board, really supportive. He came from the sales background as well. He'd been a sales manager with us, and he was, really understood what we were trying to do and how we were trying to improve the business. So he was the first, test case, and it took us a little while just to adapt. People are the same, but there is regional nuance, and understanding the local markets, understanding the local career partners, where the gyms are, and just, even where the campus is and the features, USPs, landmarks. It was all a learning process, all right? Easy stuff to pick up, but it does take time for that to become the norm. And so we stumbled a little bit at the start, really for about a month to 6 weeks. And then after that, something just clicked. Performance just skyrocketed. We ended up smashing our kind of year-on-year totals, posting, amazing results and profit, and awesome conversion for South Australia. And we were just doing that with 2 reps at the time who were just doing Queensland and South Australia. So we decided to centralise it in Queensland. And that's where it all began.
It was a use case, and it was like, all right, this is a no-brainer.
And then we had that proof, and we had the results, to prove it. SA was doing really well, and Queensland was doing well at the time. So then who came next? I think it was Victoria was next. So they were one of our bigger regions, but again, had a little bit of movement within the team, and the opportunity presented itself. So we wrapped our arms around it and took on Vic. We took our learnings from South Australia and applied that, and we were able to achieve success a lot quicker. Right? We kind of learned from our mistakes. We really got around the regional teams that were still based in Melbourne, really leaned on them to teach our reps and sort of keep them, up to speed with different happenings in the industry and learning about the campuses and the coaches and all of our USPs and things that they would need to know. And that was a great success. So not long after that, we then took on New South Wales was last.
I was gonna say I think New South Wales would be the last one.
So then it was so then it was WA. Now WA has its additional challenges just with the time zone, right? It's only 2 hours, but it makes a big difference, right? It really does, particularly with those. We do contact a lot of inquiries after hours. People that are touching base after work. So
you got some late shifts?
We got some late shifts, but even when we're here till 7:30 or 8 o'clock, it's still only 5:36. And we used to have local reps in Perth that were there and could cover more hours. So when we actually centralised, we did decide to keep one of the reps in Perth. He was actually a superstar, so there was no way that it was not even a question really. But we said, look, we'll keep her, but bring her into the centralised team. Take WA leads, but we also need her taking other leads.
And that's why you haven't got New Zealand, because you don't want to get in early. Go on the other side.
That's right. It's on the radar. We'll see. WA, I think it's still a bit of an ongoing challenge just with the time zone difference, but having a local rep there really made a big difference, and we're able to hit our straps last financial year, and be a little bit more challenging this year because that rep that I mentioned has gone on maternity leave. He's due to return later this year, but we really felt the impact of not having a local resource there, despite our best efforts with automated contact and SMS, meeting booking tools and those kind of things to try and catch people. We found that WA is very parochial, and even calling someone in Perth from a Sydney number or a Brisbane number, they don't want to hear from you. They don't want to know about it. It's quite weird, and I think COVID's highlighted this as well, that Fortress WA, or I saw something today, Wax It WA.
Yeah, that's right, Wax It.
Exit as well. But we certainly felt that, and we've got some good plans and initiatives in place to counter that as well. But then the last beast was New South Wales ACT, which is by far our biggest region. Really, I think back in the day, it's where our head office was, where we had the most campuses, and where we generated the most revenue, still to this day. And we had a lot of people based down there in Sydney, many of which I hired in my time down there, or was responsible for managing them when I was based in Sydney.
Where was the Herald office in Sydney?
Crow's Nest.
Okay.
The campus was in St Leonard's, and then we had another one in Parramatta, which we still do, and Newcastle and Canberra at the time. So it was a big region, and again, we had that risk of we don't want to screw this up. We don't want to sort of rock the boat and jeopardize all of that revenue while we're trying to restructure things. It'd be easy if we were starting from scratch and opening a new business, but we had to keep the wheels turning. We had to keep the lights on. And so it was a phased approach where we slowly started taking on leads from New South Wales and feeding them into the centralised team.
That was my next question. With that specifically, was it a switch?
Yeah. And then slowly feeding them some of the overflow, leads that we couldn't get to quick enough in the centralised team, we'd pass down to the guys in New South Wales. We were really just beginning that process at the beginning of 2020, when hit COVID in March, April. That really obviously shocked us at first, and we had to kind of disperse and move into a remote model. And that was probably the other thing that I didn't highlight was not only were we moving from centralising the sales function, we were moving from a very belly-to-belly or face-to-face sales model to a completely remote and online sales model. And again, when I put the strategy forward, it had a lot of critics, and rightly so, because it was our bread and butter, and we did extremely well with belly-to-belly sales. And I mean, there's something about
well, they came into the head office, and you got to show them the rooms.
Yeah. It's an experience. Got us thinking, well, how do we create this same experience? We call it a wow experience in an online, presentation, etc. And that was the whole project that we worked on with marketing, with agency.
Did you guys end up using Quilla?
We do, yeah.
Because the funny story. So Mark Tanner's going to be the next one.
Yeah.
And I was talking to Catherine, who works there as well, and was sort of saying, and then you came up in conversation, and I said, we were talking about some platform, whether it was Google Slides or something like. I remember how you and I were just kicking the ball around trying to figure out what could we use. It took me until last year to figure out what Quilla was and start using it. And I went in and I reckon this would be great for Kim. No, they're already customers. So I was like, okay, of course they are.
Yeah, mainly with our B2B side. That's really where we're using Quilla.
Yeah. Just the automatic tokens that you could just generate and just automatically.
So, admittedly, we've got half a dozen users on it at the moment. We use it for all of our B2B sales presentations and partnership presentations.
Isn't it magic?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Isn't it magic?
It's really good.
It's amazing.
It's like I was so against it because I was like, I have HubSpot landing pages. I could build this myself, but I didn't. And then, the thing I really like about it, because I'm brand first about everything. Everything has to be perfect. You can be blind and still make it look good because you set the brand colors, you set the H1, H2s. You can't have any more sizes. That's all you can do.
You can't go rogue.
You can't. No, you have to stick within a margin. You have to stick within a heading. It's brilliant. Yeah. And even at mobile as well, it just works perfectly too.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mark. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, big fella.
Cheers.
But it is in our roadmap, this year for moving the entire sales team onto Quilla as well. So if they're listening, they've been at us for a while.
Can I have a discount, please?
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to Quilla.
The payment feature, they brought out a few new features, I think it was. It was the payment's been there for a while. It kicks across to zero. But they've got the calculator that they just brought out. I don't know whether you saw that.
Calculated pricing.
I don't know how to work that. That's very complex, but I'll work on it soon, pretty soon. One thing that I'm super, super, super excited about is AI. Our agency back in the day used to be down the road from you. So whenever we used to go get a sandwich at lunch, we'd always just see the blue and green shirts circle around the valley, and we'd always knew that there'd be a bunch of them at the sandwich shop at Werther's and whatnot. But now that's no longer. It's black and red. So recently, obviously, I don't know. It is pretty obvious actually. AIF did a massive rebrand. Massive. When I say massive, it's massive, like absolutely huge. Can you talk to me a little bit about the brand and then I guess the website and I guess that journey as well? Because how long has that brand been, the original brand, been around for? That has been around for years.
It was coming up to 15 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've had other iterations of the brand before that as well, because we've been around many, many decades.
But I think that logo and that color scheme had been imprinted in magazines and everywhere just for so long. Yeah.
It was quite a funny story actually, and Jess's involvement in the project, and ultimately she was responsible for executing the rebrand and did a brilliant job. But going back, Jess mentioned before that she re-entered the business on a mat leave contract. And so at the time, our marketing manager, Jean, who I think you might have met.
Yeah, I remember Jean.
She was just preparing to go on maternity leave, and we've been working on this project with Russ, our chairman, and Steve, our CEO.
He is a shareholder. Yeah, technically he's a shareholder.
That's good. And we'd realised at that point that the brand, been around 14, 15 years, which, branding, terms is a long time without really any change, any significant change to the brand. And we'd felt that we'd got a little bit tired. We probably lost our mojo a little bit. We'd been through a lot. The industry had been through a lot too, the RTO sector as well as the fitness industry. And I guess we were going through this transformation as a business, and we came to the realization that we don't want to come out of this transformation with the new look, AIF restructured, centralized, different shareholders, etc., different executive team. We didn't want to look and feel the same, that we had done for the last 15 years. We kind of wanted a new brand, something fresh to really represent that new beginning for AIF, or our rebirth, if you will. And so at that time, we engaged a consultancy down in Sydney to really help us really work through that process and help develop the new brand, both for AIF and also Australian Fitness Network. So that was a really good process, because we went through a whole bunch of kind of workshops and deep dive discovery sessions to really, from all key stakeholders in the business, just to really understand, I guess, our impressions and opinions of the brand, where we are now, where we're headed in the future, and kind of help to I guess, develop or pave the way for this new brand. So it was quite a process that we went through. It was really insightful. Went on for a few months. Jean at the time helped get that process of going. I'm actually trying to remember that now.
It was me.
It was you.
It was me at the start, and then Jean came back
to you.
and then back to you.
Okay, cool. So I mashed up the timeline a little bit there, but in short, it started with Jess. Whilst Jean was on maternity leave, we sort of developed everything, kicked it all off. Jean came back into marketing manager role, and at the time we decided to keep Jess on a full-time permanent contract, overseeing our communications team and working really closely, obviously, with marketing and the sales guys as well. And then Jean went on maternity leave again, and then the baton got handed back to Jess. And both of them did a brilliant job. But you can understand there's a lot of information, a lot of moving parts when you're rebranding everything. Every little thing.
I didn't understand the extensivity of it until I opened up. We've got access to your brand folder. There's 3,500, 4,000 files in there. It's a lot of files.
It's impressive.
Yeah, it's hectic. There's a lot of things. Even to the new premise that you guys have, just fitting that out.
That's been a really cool project and something that I've spearheaded is our property and rebranding of all of our campuses, which we've still got a few in the works at the moment.
Couldn't imagine it'd be easy during COVID. No. All that free resource and contractors that are easily available.
And being able to travel and get around to these sites. But we've done well. We've got Brisbane and Adelaide done at the moment, and Melbourne is in progress right now with our 4 campuses there.
Nice.
Then Sydney, then on to Perth after that. So 2022 will be a big one for property. Yeah, that was really the beginning of the rebrand, kind of where it was birthed, and we decided, all right, we're going through such wholesale change in the business. We need a fresh look. And I think the analogy at the time, we said we need a fresh suit, a new suit and a fresh haircut. We've kind of lost our vibe a little bit, and we wanted to, kind of re-energize the AIF and create a brand that obviously was more contemporary and, more fitting for the current market.
It's nice and clean.
Yeah. But obviously for our future market, as our target market hasn't changed, but obviously the people within that have changed significantly over the years since the Biggest Loser days and Michelle Bridges, and that was really the height or the peak of our old brand.
And there's probably more gyms than ever now.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Huge
and more coming. Overseas brands, franchises, huge. There'll be heaps coming in 2022, and I'm sure more to follow in the years to come. So there's still a lot of opportunity out there for us and for the fitness industries, or fitness professionals in the industry.
We also went through a new website. So originally that was when Jean came back, she was then spearheading and doing the rebrand piece, and I was then doing the website.
I was very, very, very happy to see the website update. It was a very long time coming.
Yeah, and
I had to bite my tongue a few conversations. I was like, can we just have a go? Can we just
No, but it was just so clunky. We had that website.
7 years old.
Yeah, almost 10 years. And even we could only have one developer. And we couldn't make changes because there's a lot of Band-Aid solutions here.
Yeah.
If you do that, something's going to break and I don't know how it's going to go. And there was a few times where things would change and be like, okay.
Because whenever open day would happen again, we'd kind of use that same one and change it. And I remember I was helping out with something, and there was a really old school 80s photo. I was like, oh, can I? No, just leave that. Please leave that. Don't touch it.
Yeah. Well, then that's when we started doing landing pages and just getting people off our website. Because I'd like them to come to this landing page because we can make it a little bit more smick and the feel that you wanted to. But obviously with the rebrand, it was just a great opportunity to just refresh and do everything. But also you didn't realize how many things had your brand attached to it. And it was really hard also at a national level, because regions were obviously franchised, so they all had their own different things that we weren't even across. And I'd say until recently, we're still getting random little things, or I'll come across what is that blue and green? I was getting to the point where I'm like, it would make me feel sick seeing the old brand. We used that for so long. But
because how many staff nationally?
So currently sitting around 110.
That's a lot of collateral just for email signatures, I will say. Email signatures.
But streamlining the efficiency and having that visibility to get people to update their email signature on and we're finding processes for everything, or that feedback loop. And it was really a great opportunity through the rebrand is we're using all the efficiencies through HubSpot communication. Like we're treating our team members as an audience, being get them on board.
You did. I see you guys were EDMing the whole company about the updates. And you almost had like a weekly or a fortnightly update that you sent out. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, and like communication scripts, what to say. At this point, we're going to be reaching out to this audience. Like you can tell them X, Y, and Z. And it was really hard because you didn't want people to go rogue, and we still wanted to have that suspense as a surprise. But
And then Steve released the video on LinkedIn. I remember when the rebrand. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But also, we're doing all this through COVID, and trying to have a brand with a relaunch, and then being like, okay, we can't actually go anywhere or do anything.
That's a good point, because we were due to launch April 2020.
Yeah.
And obviously then COVID happened, and we decided, okay, the industry was hit really hard, especially gyms and the fitness industry.
Well, gyms specifically got caught. You cannot open at all.
And so we thought, look, probably not a good idea for us to be, shouting from the rooftops, making a song and dance about our new brand and talking about all this exciting, great stuff that we're doing when our industry is really hurting at the moment. So we decided to put a pin in it, and then kind of 6 months later. But that gave us a lot of opportunity just to refine our launch strategy and approach, get a few things squared away. Lots of delays thanks to COVID with ordering in uniforms and stock merchandise and everything from overseas. So it actually afforded us a good opportunity to get all that sorted. And, we were still I think the industry was still in a world of hurt, come the end of 2020, around that October, November. But
I think that's where people started to say, like, let's start investing in myself again. Like, and I think, I don't know whether we're going to fast forward to this part of online learning, but that's kind of where people were like, all right, I've got so much free time here. Let's start to like empower, and let's start to look at how I can, when we get out of this, how I can actually upskill myself. So the brand stuff, there we go. So the whole process, I guess the website was the big part for you.
Originally was the big part.
Because it's the sales tool. It's where
everything goes.
It's the heart.
Yeah. Fitness.edu.au.
Yeah.
Like you need it to be able to deliver, and the importance of user-friendly and mobile, because obviously people are on the go a lot more than what we previously have been, that you need something that was seamless, that could work.
Big buttons.
Clear, and that's really just intuitive. So I really think we captured that with our new website.
And it's good to see like brand consistency across all of your channels as well. Like, big believer that consistency through brand builds trust. You see the uniform, you walk into the premises or photos, everything's like looks exactly the same. It's just it's great. It looks really, really good.
Yeah, we call it my quality control. And often and I think that's really important from a brand. As soon as you see something that's not right, like I used to do want to step on people's toes, but I'm like, you're doing that. I'm like, no. Like, get that in line now.
I get angry at Dom when the heading's not bolded. And he's like, are you serious, man? I'm like, just bold the heading, please.
That's all you need to do.
It needs to be caps.
Oh, here's the brand guidelines. And I think, as you said in the files before, like we have quite a robust brand guidelines. We've got ones that are more from my marketing team or agencies that we're working with. But then we've also got a brand guidelines, but also our culture that also comes through from a team member perspective. And then we've got different guides for them to kind of showcase, how to conduct yourself, what kind of language, and ways to just go about enhancing our brand in their day-to-day life.
It was kind of birthed through COVID, but it's continued on, to this present day. And that was really an educational series that Jess put together at our monthly all team member catch-up. So we have once a month where everyone from, Perth, Sydney, Melbourne, everyone in the business jumps on a live Zoom call that's chaired by our CEO. And we have different segments from different departments, that will be updating on key movements. And Jess has done a really great series going through our brand pillars, going through our values, dissecting the kind of brandographic, and really making it easy and relatable for our team members, and then really showcasing how they can live and breathe the brand.
And that's good because that flows through to the sales team. And then there's that brand consistency, not only with what they visually see, but what they hear as well, because you guys are talking one language on the website. When I pick up the phone, it's the same thing. I think if there's one thing I can take out about this sales and marketing team, it's that, because there's a lot of companies out there that don't do that. They're saying one thing on the website and saying another thing when they sort of speak to them on the phone. And it's just, do you think it takes very long? So like if you were a company out there that weren't really aligned with the sales and marketing team, Jess, what would be the first steps that you'd do to sort of start to get that alignment going? What would you do?
Well, it's interesting because Shane and I will often attend sales and marketing. So it might be a sales course or a marketing course, but we'll both physically attend together. And we always look at it. We are always the united front, a company with two individuals from different departments. And it's always, you can tell, and often it is more likely your marketing roles are there. And yeah, you can just tell the interactions of the business. Because we're just aligned. We know each other's, yes, I might not know the whole sales journey or process, but if I had to be thrown in the deep end, I'm sure I could swim. But that's what you kind of need from also the sales general manager and Kim, is they know enough if I'm away, they could hold the portfolio. And I think it's just that transparency across the roles, but also the importance of knowing what you bring to the party. And that accountability. So each month, Shane and I do SLA agreements, so service levels agreements. So marketing will bring in X amount of leads, X amount of MQLs. Sales will then ensure that X amount of are contacted, converted, and just to hold yourself accountable. So I think it's just working as a team. And it is so easy to say, oh, well, sales, they're not converting, or oh, they're being so slack, they're chit-chatty. And I think it's more treating it as a team one way.
So you just spending more time together, building a relationship up, and just really, you could rattle off the top of your head how well certain areas of the sales area are going because you've got that really good sort of relationship. And Shane can also come back and be like, cool, this is what's happening. So there's a good synergy, I guess.
Yeah, and I think it definitely helps as well is back in Queensland days, I was always a part of all the training, and not many other marketing gurus across the regions were. And I feel like that definitely gave us a competitive advantage because then I was across the roles in scripting, or then when I'll come to Kim and be like, we need to change this, because I know from a marketing, it will just kind of flow it better. So we know we can make changes and everything's more succinct. Yeah. Or this is a great point. You could talk, yes, here's a sentence. Now here's a resource that can back that up. And here's a guide we'll put together to be able to kind of say, walk the walk, talk the talk. So we're able to set our sales guys up with more success. And confidence.
Would you add anything to that?
So I think from a leadership perspective, and it depends on how the business is structured. I think we've been fortunate where I'm responsible for overseeing sales and marketing. So we've got joint goals. So I think the first thing that I would do and that we have done is actually create shared goals and shared KPIs for the teams to work together on. The service level agreements are great, and it's an initiative that Shane and Jess have really championed. And it's done every single month, and it's really clearly detailed on what each team's bringing to the table and what they're holding each other accountable to as well. So I think that's absolutely critical. But I think one of the best things that we've done, and we're still getting better at this, is really understanding marketing's role in revenue generation and being able to, through our sales and marketing or our CRM and our marketing systems, is really being able to quantify the value of the different, the various leads from different channels, from different campaigns, and look at how they're converting differently, understand which leads convert to deals quicker, which lead sources close deals quicker. And from those deals that close, what's the average, ROI? And we were just talking about this on Wednesday. We had a particular campaign that was an experiment. We looked at the CPA and it was high. It was much higher than what we would normally tolerate. When you dig a little bit deeper and you go, well, look at the sales that we're generating off that. We actually put $1 into marketing. We're getting $7 back in sales. So it's worth paying an extra CPA. So we're considering sales in our marketing discussions, and we're considering marketing in our sales discussions.
Because naturally, what would happen in that, the agency, well, not the agency, but the marketing would be getting in trouble. Yeah. Well, because spending way too much money, cut it. Yeah. When realistically, they're cutting something that is actually generating a lot of money for them.
Yeah. And
it's that intelligence, and also knowing both teams that they can read and dissect that information.
Yeah. And that comes back to the data, and analytics, and really being able to educate people on those different levers, that both teams can push and pull. So I think shared goals, something that we've been working on for a while is the OKR framework, objectives and key results, which I'm sure a lot of people know about. But I've been working with Jess and Shane, really getting them to understand my sort of team or overarching OKRs, because I also have 5 regional general managers that report to me as well. So I'm working with them as well as Jess and Shane. So understanding my objectives and key results for my role in my department, how that links to the overarching business strategy, and then allowing them to develop their own team and individual OKRs for their departments. And there's a bit of crossover there. Like they'll share.
What are you using to manage
goals.
that at all?
We actually use Employment Hero.
Gotcha.
So they have a goals feature, and it's based on the OKR
nice.
framework, where you can set a goal, then the sub key results with dates, and then all your initiatives for that as well. So I've seen a few good systems. We tried Trello for a while because we can bend that to do whatever we need it to do.
You can do anything you want.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. So that would be my advice. It really has to come from the top. Either the CEO, if the CMO and head of sales are reporting to them, to really bring the teams together, set joint shared objectives and KPIs, and really be driven by data.
So I guess people out there that are marketers or salespeople, I guess, a question I kind of always like to ask is, being, I guess, been at AIF since 14, 15 years or so, coming up to 15, what would you sort of say to your younger self now that you're the old man you are now? I guess, you were sort of like literally on the phones back in the day, really hardcore. I guess, is there any advice that you'd kind of give your younger self now, kind of knowing what you know? A little bit wiser, obviously, but yeah.
Get on to some hair growth stuff early would be good. No, got a little bit less up here, a little bit more here over the years.
A little bit more here. A little bit more here.
I think to my early self, I think the advice that I'd give is, to an extent, what I tried to follow when I was younger, and that is work harder on yourself than you do on your job. You've got to put in the hours at work. You've got to put in the hard yards, yes, like especially in sales, right? It's very much a numbers game. But if you're working harder on yourself, and I'm sure we've all heard the analogy of sharpening the saw, working on your own personal development and growth, and I read a lot. I read a lot of sales stuff back then. Brian Tracy, Tom Hopkins, Zig Ziglar, all the American godfathers of selling. I got right into that stuff, and audiobooks. There was even tapes back then. Had tapes and CDs, and was listening to all that stuff and just implementing it. So that would be my 2 pieces of advice: is work harder on yourself. That's your health. That's your physical, your mental health. Living a balanced life, because we all know in sales.
Did you know you wanted to do sales though?
No. I was never on the radar at all. Didn't think I'd be cut out for it. Didn't really, wasn't really expecting it. So it came as a bit of a surprise to me. But I think...
Did it feel natural to you when you were younger?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think I'm a natural salesperson. I mean, maybe over the years I've developed communication skills or whatever that have come with the job. But I really had to work hard at it. And I think what I tried to do, I would read a book. I would, talk to someone about it. I would just, get some ideas out. And then the next day I would try and implement it. Like I would just do it and just see if it worked.
I'm a big believer of like reading. Well, I'm not a very good reader, but I'm a list of audiobooks. Just taking one concept from that book and just trying that's one thing.
That's it.
It might be 10 things in the book, but just taking one thing and just trying to... Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did early on. And sometimes it would work brilliantly. Sometimes it would fail miserably. Yeah. But either way, it was a good learning opportunity as well. So, really work hard on your personal development and your health. You get I subscribe to a lot of the sales... LinkedIn pages and things that have lots of funny memes and things about sales.
Are you on the same one that I'm on? It's called the Sales. They do really funny memes, and then the polls. They've been doing polls lately.
Yeah.
So good. The memes were on point all the time because when the prospect said they'll call you back or something like that.
And the guy, the skeleton, all of that kind of stuff. But I don't know, sales gets kind of a bad rap sometimes for people being overworked and this and that and probably pounding caffeine and this and that, whatever it is, Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
boiler room, that kind of thing. But it's not, in reality.
I think
and
we work a
especially these
lot
days.
smarter these days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Back then, you had to work a lot harder. When you're taking a machine gun approach to prospecting, and you're just calling everyone on a list, and you're having to do hundreds of dials, the person who does the most numbers wins. The more shots that you fire, the more that you're going to land. Nowadays, it's completely different. It's more like being a sniper.
Well, your
right?
sales
Where
team
you
are having qualified conversations
Yeah.
now because of Jess's team of bringing them in, and they are wanting to talk to somebody.
Yeah, and not only that, the sales reps are able to prioritize active buyers over passive buyers. They can see through predictive lead scoring and the machine learning, etc., who are our high priority, who are our high likelihood to convert. And it's not that we're going to ignore the guys at the bottom, but we're going to prioritize and give our time at the start of the day to follow up on the hot leads. And we always said this, heavyweight time with heavyweight prospects. But back in the day, we didn't know who was a heavyweight and who wasn't. We kind of had to treat everyone equal, and that's another saying.
Do you think we're at I don't know, if you look at back in the day, I guess how digital's progressed and whatnot, do you think we can go any smarter with sales? Really, we've got everything at our fingertips. We've got the data. We know when people, they don't even know we know that they're qualified because of lead scoring. I find it very, very hard to think what that next level is going to be because we know everything. Even with ad targeting and whatnot, if you're looking at something or if we've got a lookalike audience or something like that, I wonder if there's another, I just can't think that there's another level. We know everything about our prospects.
Yeah, I think my take on that, I too probably struggled to think of how it would progress, but I'm sure it will.
Yeah,
it
of
definitely
course.
will. I think what will advance, and what is already taking place is just understanding better how to apply what we know, how to utilize this data in better ways to personalize the sales experience, to expedite certain things, to create better efficiencies in the sales process, and to deliver value to prospective customers. So I think the data's there, and a lot of businesses are dabbling, with that at the moment. And I think, I think we'd even say we've got a lot more to do. We've got so much capability with this data that we have, that we never had years ago, but we need to continue to find ways to apply it and utilize it better. All right, and that's a new journey that we're embarking on with business intelligence, machine learning, and AI, not just in sales and marketing, but in our learning, online learning and education, our customer service and support, really an all-encompassing kind of data strategy of how we can use all of this information for good and to better serve the customer, to better retain and engage students, and obviously close and convert more sales right at the get-go. But
And I guess
it's an exciting time.
I guess when it comes down to, the world's your oyster when it comes to prospects and people that come. From Jess's point of view, it's as good as the ideas you come up with, especially when you've got the data and the tool.
Yeah, and how people are consuming the information or what they're being exposed to. Netflix, Canva, the way that people are now looking at, a website page. What are they expecting? They want it to be clean. They want it to be concise. There's always going to be that evolution of the next thing, that transition. So for me, it's always all right, well, just needing to get there quicker than the competitors. So we found with our old brand, a lot of people, we went to blue and green because no one else was there. By the end of it, we'll get moving back because everyone was over there. We wanted to be different again. Yeah. And I think so it's always going to be the flow. There's always something else to look and work on. But I think it's also not being overwhelmed because there's so much data and there's so much information out there. I think it's more what we're going to do. We're going to commit to it and know that this is what we're working on and,
give it a crack.
Be positive or it might not work. But I think it's just committing to what you're doing at that time to know you gave it a good crack.
Well, you're going to get the data. So you're going to be, all right, let's not do that again. Okay, moving on. Let's not do, okay, that works. Bang, let's hit that.
Well, and also find that sweet spot for how long will we give it to, because some things might originally look like they're going down, but they've got to go down before they get better.
And Jess, that was a good answer. And Jess, if there was, if you could speak to your younger self, knowing what you know now, I guess a budding marketer who's bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and ready to go there, is there anything that you would sort of go back and sort of tell her?
Yeah, definitely keep it simple, stupid. So the good old KISS principle.
Yep.
Only get something doing, because I know a lot of the time, and Kim will often say this to me, just don't overthink it, go back. Just work on something. It doesn't need to be perfect. Sometimes you just need to get something out there, and then I can tweak it. And, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So I think just going back to basic, what am I trying to do? What's the purpose? Let's do this. And then you can tweak and evolve it, because things will naturally evolve and you can always fine tune something. And
Yeah. I agree fully. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. I think this is our longest ever podcast video series, whatever. Thanks for coming on, guys. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Here's to another 4 years or so, hopefully a little bit more, but thanks for coming on. So that wraps up the Summer of Selling. Jess and Kim, thank you so much for coming in. AIF's doing some really great stuff, so fitness.edu.au. Keen to see some stuff. Probably over everybody's Facebook, no doubt. If you're remotely talking about fitness or training or PT or anything like that. So,
Jess.
Jess is in there. But thanks for coming in, guys. I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Trev. Thanks
Awesome.
for having us.
Thank you.